Let's talk some Eagles on this Sunday night. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there watching the show had a great weekend and your weeks tomorrow get off to an awesome start. Everything that we're talking about here on the slate. Do Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles have a major move coming? Will the Eagles trade James Bradberry to a cornerback-needy team? Because right now he's a safety on Philadelphia's roster. And I'm going to explain and break down why people have to calm down about Nolan Smith, the Eagles' 30th overall pick from the 2023 NFL Draft. First, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so right now for daily coverage of the Birds. We're approaching 80,000 subscribers. We're less than 1,000 away. It's my goal to get there before week 1, Eagles-Packers in Brazil. So if you want to stay informed, entertained, you want that brain to be moving a little bit when it comes to Eagles talk right here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. So reports emerged on Sunday morning that the Los Angeles Rams granted middle linebacker and their defensive signal caller, a team captain, Ernest Jones, permission to seek a trade after talks on a contract extension had stalled ahead of the 2024 campaign. Ernest Jones has been a really good player on the Rams defense since Los Angeles drafted him out of South Carolina in the 3rd round of the 2021 NFL Draft. As we know, Philadelphia, a little bit weak at that linebacker spot, although I'm intrigued by Nakobe Dean as well as Zach Bond, but those players are not Ernest Jones, and Philadelphia hasn't really invested a lot of money into the linebacker position. Could they do that here with Ernest Jones, who's looking for a new contract? Anytime there's a big-name player available at a position that the Eagles need, because Howie Roseman is so aggressive, because he's always trying to improve Philadelphia's roster, the Eagles are going to be mentioned as a trade destination. Now, Jones did come out today on Sunday and claim, I didn't request a trade. Sometimes we will see this from organizations across the NFL where they give permission to the agent and the player to seek a trade and see, okay, if another team is interested in trading for Ernest Jones, one, what are they going to give up in exchange for Ernest Jones? That's from the Rams standpoint. And from the agent-player standpoint, what is that team willing to give up? And are they willing to give Ernest Jones a contract extension? So that comes into play. So sometimes there is a difference between a player demanding a trade, a player requesting a trade, and then the organization giving permission to the player to seek a trade. If they give him permission, it's the agent reaching out. What teams are willing to trade for and pay my client? As for who Ernest Jones is, that 3rd-round pick in 2021 out of South Carolina, as I mentioned, been in the league for a few years, and he's still only 24 years old. Year 1, helped the Los Angeles Rams win that Super Bowl and has been a very good player for that Rams defense and a leader. That's why his teammates named him a team captain. His Pro Football Focus grades last year in 2023 for a Rams team that started slow and then finished hot down the stretch and nearly knocked off the Detroit Lions in the NFL wildcard round. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 82.1, a run defense grade of 90, a pass rush grade of 78.2, a coverage grade of 62.5. He had 93 solo tackles according to PFF, 43 assists, 0 forced fumbles, 47 stops, so he was active, making some impactful plays. Now, PFF does not count half sacks, so he had 5. According to Pro Football Reference, he had 3.5, 11 missed tackles, a passer rating allowed of 90.3. That came on 465 coverage snaps, 133 pass rushing snaps, 334 run defense snaps. So the Pro Football Focus grades are a little bit scattered and a little over the map. But this is kind of a player who's played better than what the analytics, I guess, might indicate. In back-to-back years, he's had more than 100 tackles, and then as a rookie for that Rams team that won the Super Bowl, 61 tackles. His sack numbers by year, that's not really his strength nor his game. He's more of that off-ball inside linebacker who you would pair alongside Devin White, 1, 0, 4.5. He's had 2-1-0 interceptions going from year 1 to year 3. And year 1 played 15 games, year 2 17 games, and year 3 15 games. So again, a player that you would pair alongside Devin White. But as we know, I mean, what Vic Fangio's done, I think, in the preseason and in training camp has been very fascinating, where he's not known as a defensive coordinator who's going to dial up and call a lot of blitzes, but that is something that he has done a lot of throughout training camp and in the preseason. So that's somewhat notable there. The Rams blog Turf Times lists the Eagles as one of the top trade destinations for Ernest Jones, and saying, when a player is available for a trade, just assume the Philadelphia Eagles have at least called or are keeping their eye on the situation. Philadelphia just traded for a former first-round pick wide receiver in Jahan Dotson, even within their own division. The Eagles are a particularly good match in this case because they've been trying to plug a hole at middle linebacker for some time now. They thought they were getting one of the steals of the draft when Nakobe Dean fell, but injuries were a big part of that fall. They've also hindered Dean at the NFL level. The Eagles also signed Devin White in free agency from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though he's always been a limited player, buoyed by his status as a former first-round pick. So I've said here on the show, I think Devin White is due for a breakout year. I've seen him play at an all-pro level. I've seen him be a dynamic player on the defensive side of the football who throws haymakers and impacts the game at an extraordinarily high level for a team that went on a Super Bowl run and won the Super Bowl. He is a missile. He is a speeding bullet, and I think that Vic Fangio is going to find a way to put him in a position to succeed. He's so good at getting after the quarterback, and he has this innate ability to sack the quarterback, get pressures, quarterback hits, rack those numbers up. And what has Vic Fangio done before the season? Training camp, preseason. He has caught a lot of blitzes. And so I think that Devin White's going to be a dynamic player. He could have Ernest Jones also doing those similar things while you getting better at off-ball linebacker with two linebackers who can play in coverage. Now, I want to see what Nakobe Dean can do. He is a cost-controlled asset. I think that he has had a really good preseason in training camp. He's made impactful plays. I know he's a little bit smaller, but his instincts, being able to read and diagnose plays, I think they're special. I think that he can be an off-ball coverage guy, and he can play the run. So I don't think Philadelphia will go this route. If they do, I won't be surprised, but I think they want to try to see, okay, Nakobe Dean, make or break year. What do we have in you as a former third-round pick? Injuries, lack of playing time, they have hurt you. Last year, bad defensive system, it hurt you. Now it's your time. Can you unseat Zach Bond? Is Zach Bond going to beat you out? Still one of the remaining roster battles going into week 1. But I think Philadelphia stands pat here, and then as they go toward the NFL trade deadline, if they have a need, that's when they could address something like that. To James Bradberry here. SI, Eagles, Sports Illustrated, Eagles site, and Bleacher Report throwing out a possibility of a James Bradberry trade. And then just from some insight, from the Chat Sports office, our Giants channel, Giants Now, hosted by Marshall Green, who he has gone back and forth with a lot of Eagles fans on social media. It's been very entertaining because he is anti-Eagles and pro-Giants, and of course Eagles fans are going to rep their squad and be proud of the fact that Philadelphia's owned New York over the last decade, going 16-4 against the New York Giants. But he has been talking ad nauseum, and rightfully so, for weeks about the Giants needing to upgrade at corner. They've been bad in the preseason. They have been bad in training camp. They got cooked in joint practices against the New York Jets at the cornerback spot. So the New York Giants are a very interesting team who could be down for a James Bradberry reunion, and I've seen some Giants blogs talk about a James Bradberry reunion. But SI, Eagles, and Bleacher Report with some conversations around the James Bradberry situation that I think are interesting. This coming from SI Eagles, that Philadelphia could end up hanging on to the All-Pro who is transitioning to safety, or it could part ways with him, either through a trade or by cutting him. We won't have to wait much longer to find out what the Eagles do. And then Bleacher Report put together teams that James Bradberry could help and that makes sense for him. Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Las Vegas Raiders. I'm adding the New York Giants into that equation. But Bleacher Report saying Bradberry might not be capable of being an outside corner anymore, but he put together a great 2022 campaign. That's when he was an All-Pro for Philadelphia. That's enough to consider that he wasn't completely to blame for the Eagles' struggles last year. The obvious answer for Bradberry is to go to Arizona. His elite 2022 was in part because of Jonathan Gannon, who is now the head coach of the Cardinals. However, he could reunite with another former coach, Patrick Graham, who holds the defensive coordinator job in Las Vegas, and Bradberry played for him with the New York Giants. The Raiders need corner help. The Giants need corner help. The Cardinals need corner help. What's going to happen with Bradberry? What's interesting is that he did not dress in the preseason finale. Could be one of two reasons. The Eagles are going to hold on to him, and they like him as a backup safety because of the injury status of Sidney Brown coming off that torn ACL, or they didn't want to play James Bradberry in that final preseason game to risk him getting injured so that they could flip him in a trade elsewhere for a corner-needy team. Now, for Philadelphia, I don't think he has a role as a safety. Or as a corner, He does have a role on the Eagles as a safety. So a couple of questions here. How does Philadelphia view the safety position? They're good at corner. What could they get back for James Bradberry from a corner-needy team? And I don't think that they would hesitate to trade him to one of those teams if they like the offer. I think that Tristan McCullum has had a pretty good preseason. I think that he could be a depth piece at safety, and they have Avonte Maddox, who can play safety as well. From what I saw from Bradberry in that second preseason game, extended run against New England, he struggled at safety. Vic Fangio has complimented him, and Vic Fangio's an honest cat, but could he be complimenting him to not impact his trade value? So keep an eye on that as we go into Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline, when all teams have to trim their rosters from 90 to 53 players. Let's round out the show with this. Nolan Smith. The Nolan Smith slander on social media from Eagles fans and the media is crazy. He was playing deep into the third preseason game. He had 90 pass rush snaps last year for a horrible Eagles defense. What Nolan Smith needs at 23 years old, with limited production at Georgia, is reps. I have no issue with Nolan Smith playing all 3 preseason games and getting a lot of experience there. Nolan Smith is a raw prospect, was a raw prospect coming out of Georgia. He is young, and in his last 4 games, including this preseason, he has 3 sacks in his last 4 games. Wild card round against Tampa Bay, week 1 of the preseason against Baltimore, and week 2 of the preseason against New England, and he was close from making a couple of plays against Minnesota, but they got rid of the ball so damn quickly for Jaron Hall. Look, coming out of Georgia, he drew a lot of Hassan Reddick comps because they were both similar in size, under 240, but speed, burst, bend, quickness, coming off the edge as a speed edge rusher. Reddick was the 13th overall pick. Guess how his career started? It took him a while to develop coming out of Temple. Year 1, 2.5 sacks. Year 2, 4. Year 3, 1. Last year he was with Arizona, 12.5. Then he goes to Carolina, double-digit sacks. And now Hassan Reddick, since year 4, 12.5 sacks, he's one of, I think, 5 players in the NFL with double-digit sacks. There is a place for Nolan Smith in the NFL. People are already writing him off. Pump the brakes. Look at how Hassan Reddick's career started. Look at how Brandon Graham's career started. Nolan Smith plays hard, has a motor, has a foundation of unique skills and athleticism, and you can work with that. And we're going to try to say that he stinks before he embarks on year 2? Chill. Relax. I think that Nolan Smith can be a good player in this league. Wanted to hop on the mic, talk some Eagles here on this Sunday. Back in the studio tomorrow. We'll catch you then on Eagles Now.